People always said twins were inseparable, that they shared everything, birthdays, shoes, maybe even thoughts. But that was never true for Caleb and Jordan. Born on the same December night in Michigan, 2 minutes apart, Jordan came out screaming. Caleb came out quiet, and it stayed that way for the next 30 years. From the start, Jordan was the strong one. He was playing football by 6, breaking bones by 10, and kissing girls behind the bleachers before Caleb had even dared to look anyone in the eyes. Jordan was bold, loud, magnetic. Everyone gravitated toward him like he was the sun, and Caleb was just orbiting in the background. Caleb was the quiet one, the sensitive one, the boy who preferred sketchbooks to soccer balls. When he painted or brought home art awards, adults would nod politely and say things like, "That's sweet." But when Jordan scored a touchdown, the house erupted in cheers. "Jordan's the muscle," they like to say, and Caleb's got the heart. It sounded gentle, even poetic, but Caleb always heard the subtext. Heart was what you praised when there was no strength to talk about. By 14, Caleb knew he was gay. He also knew better than to say it aloud. Not in their town, not in their house. Especially not when their father's favorite dinner table joke was, "If one of my sons ever turned into a fairy, he better learn to fly far." Jordan would laugh and slap his brother's back like it was funny, like it didn't land like a stone on Caleb's chest. So he stayed quiet. He let Jordan have the spotlight. He kept his head down and his art to himself. Every time someone asked if he was seeing any girls, Caleb smiled and lied. It was easier that way. He thought if he stayed good, helpful, polite, invisible, they would still love him. That maybe being different wouldn't matter, as long as he didn't make it matter. He came out at 22, softly over dinner, with a voice steady but quiet. "I have someone I want you to meet," he said. "His name is Brian." His mother's fork hit the plate before he even finished. His father stood and left the table. Jordan didn't speak at all. No one yelled, no one kicked him out. They just stopped including him. No more family holidays, no photos on the wall, just silence. A slow, steady erasure, like someone had dimmed the lights on his place in the family without anyone saying why. Still, Caleb called, he visited, he offered help, he showed up, believing that love was something you could earn back, if you just kept giving. He thought that if he gave enough, did enough, they'd remember he belonged, not just as the sensitive one, not just as the twin who wasn't like the rest, but as their son, their brother. And for a moment, it seemed like it might be working. But Caleb couldn't have known what would come next, that one day the twin they always called strong would break. And when that day came, the family would turn to the one they'd always ignored. And the question wouldn't be whether Caleb was strong enough to help. It would be whether he was willing. If you've ever been the quiet one, the erased one, the one they only call when they need something, then this story is for you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Heart Stories. We tell the ones they pretend didn't matter, but they do. You do. Stay with us. After their father passed away unexpectedly from a heart attack, Caleb was the one who stepped up. The funeral was quiet, subdued, and afterward, everyone just drifted. Jordan cried loudly at the service, gripping their mother's hand. Caleb was the one who handled the bills, called the bank, arranged the death certificates. He took a second job. The house still had 10 years left on the mortgage, and someone had to keep it. That someone was Caleb. Jordan stayed in the house too. He said he would help when things settled, but nothing ever settled. The football injury he'd suffered in college had ended his sports career before it really started. He bounced between jobs, sometimes disappearing for days, coming back with excuses and apologies. Their mother didn't seem to mind. "He's still finding his way," she'd say, offering him dinner like nothing had changed. Meanwhile, Caleb worked. He got up early, took freelance design gigs late at night. He paid the electricity, the insurance, the groceries. He even paid for Jordan's physical therapy when their mother couldn't cover it. But no one ever said thank you. Jordan took up the living room with his gaming setup. He invited his girlfriend over constantly, sometimes 2 or 3 nights a week. They laughed loudly past midnight while Caleb tried to sleep in the room they once shared, now cluttered with Jordan's sneakers and protein shakes. Their mother noticed none of it. Or maybe she did and simply chose not to speak. "Caleb, you've always been so responsible," she'd say. which sounded like a compliment but felt more like a sentence. And Jordan? Well, he's trying. Give him time. At dinner, she still asked Jordan how he was holding up. She still called him my strong boy, like she was trying to protect something fragile in him, something Caleb never seemed to deserve. One Sunday afternoon, while folding laundry in the kitchen, Caleb mentioned gently that he was thinking of moving out. I've been with Brian for 2 years now. We're thinking about finding a place. His mother froze, a towel half folded in her hands. You want to bring that relationship into this family? It already is, Caleb replied, careful not to raise his voice. I just want to build something of my own. Her eyes narrowed, the kindness in her voice gone. Not under my roof, Caleb. I've tried to be patient, but I don't want that in this house. He didn't ask what that meant. He didn't need to. He kept paying the mortgage anyway. For a house that wasn't his, for a family that only acknowledged him when they needed something fixed or filed. Jordan borrowed his car without asking. Their mother told Caleb to let it go. He's stressed. When Jordan's birthday came, the house was filled with balloons and noise. Their mother cooked all his favorite dishes. Caleb had baked a cake. Jordan gave him a sideways hug and posted the celebration on Instagram with the caption, "Strong ones make it through." There was no cake for Caleb's birthday, no post, no party. His mother said she forgot. Jordan didn't say anything at all. Caleb tried to remind himself that family was complicated, that maybe love didn't always look like balance. But there was a part of him, small but steady, that kept asking if he stopped carrying everything, would they even notice or would they just find someone else to take? He went to bed that night with a knot in his stomach and a silence he'd learned to live with. The house was warm, paid for, and full of life, but it didn't feel like home. It happened on a Saturday. Caleb had just come back from a weekend art workshop, his first break in months. The sun was dipping low behind the houses of their quiet Michigan neighborhood when he pulled into the driveway and saw Jordan's pickup parked halfway across the lawn. Music thumped from inside, bass rattling the windows. That alone didn't surprise him. What did was the sight of several plastic bins stacked outside the front door, all labeled in his handwriting, his bins. He walked in through the side entrance and found the hallway unusually quiet. Their mother was in the kitchen, stirring something on the stove like nothing had shifted. Jordan sat on the couch, arms slung around his girlfriend, their laughter muffled only by the volume on the TV. Caleb's heart pounded, not from panic, but from a strange kind of certainty. "Where's my stuff?" he asked. Jordan didn't look up. "Oh yeah, about that. I moved your stuff to the garage." Caleb blinked, thinking it was a joke. It wasn't. "You moved me?" he asked. Jordan then finally turned to look at him, tone casual. "I needed the space. Bree's been staying over more. We kind of need our own room." Caleb stared. "You could have asked me." His mother chimed in from the kitchen without turning around. "Let's not make a big deal. You barely spend time in there, Caleb. You work all the time. The garage is fine, clean even. You're creative. Make it yours." Something inside Caleb cracked quietly. Like glass under pressure. Not a dramatic shatter. Just a sound only he could hear. He didn't scream or argue. He walked to the garage door, opened it, and turned on the light. It was cold. A single bulb flickered above. The floor was covered in dust and old paint stains. His easel leaned awkwardly against a corner, canvases stacked beside it, some warped from moisture, others torn from the move. His clothes were in bins, his books shoved into cardboard boxes. There was no bed, just an old cot and a folded blanket. He sat down slowly on the edge of the cot. It creaked under his weight. Outside, he could still hear laughter from the living room. He picked up one of his canvases, a self-portrait he had started weeks ago, unfinished. The face was smudged now, water damage bleeding through the edges. He didn't cry, not yet. That would come later, when the house fell silent and the cold settled into his bones. The next morning, their mother knocked on the garage door, holding a plate of toast like some kind of peace offering. "I know it's not ideal," she said, "but Jordan's going through a lot. This is just temporary. Be the bigger person, Caleb. You've always been so strong, you know?" It was the first time she'd ever called him strong, but it didn't feel like strength. It felt like sacrifice dressed up as a compliment. That night, Caleb tried to sleep, curled up under the thin blanket, the wind slipping through the gap beneath the garage door. A leak from the corner had soaked part of the floor. His sketchbooks were damp again. He moved them higher onto a folding chair and sat down beside them. He thought about the phrase he kept hearing growing up, how Jordan was the strong one. How every family dinner turned into a celebration of Jordan's wins, even after the injuries, even when the wins were long gone. Meanwhile, Caleb had kept the lights on, the house paid for, the fridge full, and now he was sleeping next to paint cans and rusted tools. He tried not to feel bitter. He really did. But bitterness crept in through cracks, just like the cold air seeping into the garage. He wondered, not for the first time, if it would have been better to leave long ago. But the guilt always caught up to him. Guilt for leaving his mother, for being gay, for wanting something different. That night, he took a piece of charcoal and sketched something on the garage wall. 2 stick figures, one small and gray, the other tall with exaggerated shoulders. The taller one stood in a house with lights on. The smaller one stood in a box outside. He stared at it for a long time, then drew a light between them. Not connecting them, just a light. Something neither of them had reached yet. He went to sleep with the image stuck in his head. It started with Jordan feeling tired. Not just lazy tired, like when he'd crash on the couch after playing video games all night, but bone-deep exhaustion that even his cocky grin couldn't mask. He skipped meals, slept through the day. His skin grew pale. When their mother finally forced him to see a doctor, they returned home with a word none of them knew how to hold. Aplastic anemia, a rare condition, dangerous. Jordan would need treatment, and soon, possibly a stem cell transplant. Caleb heard it all while standing in the doorway, the garage still clinging to his clothes like a second skin. The house was warm that evening, but every word from the doctor left a cold trail down his spine. Tests were ordered, blood drawn, and then the results came. Among all the family members, Caleb was the only match, the only one. The room went still when the doctor said it. Their mother clutched her necklace like it might hold the answer. Jordan didn't speak. And Caleb just sat down slowly on the arm of the couch, his hands resting on his knees. No one asked, not directly. They just looked at him like it was understood, like being the match meant being the solution. No apologies, no gratitude, just expectation. Their mother finally broke the silence, her voice unusually gentle. "It's a sign," she said. "Maybe this is how we come together again. God gives us chances, you know?" She didn't mention the garage or the years of silence, or the way she had once said she'd rather have no son at all than a gay one under her roof. Caleb heard the subtext anyway. "You're finally useful." Jordan looked at him, his eyes dull. "I know I've been an asshole," he said. "I know I've treated you like shit. But you're my brother, man. You'll do the right thing, right?" Caleb didn't respond right away. He sat there, watching Jordan. The strong one, the favorite, the pride of the family now shrinking into the blanket draped over his shoulders. There was something different in Jordan's face. Not fear exactly, but vulnerability. A glimpse of what it looked like to not be untouchable. Caleb looked at his mother then, the woman who told him to be the bigger person every time Jordan hurt him. The woman who'd watched him move into a garage and called it fair. She wasn't crying. She wasn't begging. She just watched him with tired eyes, like she was waiting for something she believed she already deserved. Finally, Caleb stood up. "I'll do it," he said, voice calm, steady. They exhaled like they'd won something, but Caleb wasn't finished. "I'm not doing it because I'm your brother," he said, looking at Jordan. "And I'm not doing it because Mom expects me to. I'm doing it because I've spent my whole life being someone I could live with. Even when none of you made room for that. I'm doing it because I believe saving someone matters, even if they wouldn't have done the same for me." Jordan blinked. His mother opened her mouth as if to speak, but Caleb turned and walked back toward the garage. No one followed. No one said thank you. That night, he stared at the ceiling above his cot. Rain tapped the roof. The floor was still damp in the corner. He thought about the boy he used to be, the one who curled up with books and drawings because the world inside his house felt colder than the one outside. The one who had learned to apologize for existing before he even understood what he was apologizing for. And now, somehow, he was the one who could save the person who had made him feel like less than nothing. It wasn't revenge, it wasn't redemption. It was just choice among. A few weeks later, Caleb sat in the hospital room across from Jordan. The procedure was scheduled. The nurses explained the risks, the recovery, the science of what was about to happen. Jordan nodded but kept glancing at Caleb like he wanted to say something. Eventually he did. "You sure you want to do this?" he asked. Caleb looked at him, expression unreadable. "I already said I would." Jordan rubbed his hands together. "You're better than me, man." Caleb shrugged. "I never wanted to be better. I just wanted to be seen." Jordan looked away. The silence between them said the rest. The surgery was a success. Jordan's body accepted the transplant. Doctors called it a textbook recovery. Their mother said it was a miracle. Caleb said nothing. He stayed until Jordan was discharged, until the hospital room was quiet and clean again, until the last nurse removed the last IV and wished them well. Then, without fanfare or final hugs, he left. He didn't go back to the garage. He didn't even tell his mother he was moving out. He'd packed everything 2 days before the procedure. Canvases, clothes, his books, his sketch pad, still damp in the corners from that night it rained through the ceiling. He'd rented a small apartment across town with Noah, the quiet, soft-spoken man he'd been seeing for nearly a year. The one who made tea without asking. The one who never once asked Caleb to be less sensitive. Their apartment was nothing special. Thin walls, secondhand furniture, a view of the parking lot instead of trees. But there was a coat rack with 2 hooks. There was toothpaste for 2. There were quiet mornings where no one made fun of his voice, or his hands, or the way he folded laundry while humming. There was space, not just physical, but emotional, spiritual. He didn't build this space to prove anything, not to Jordan, not to his mother, not even to himself. He built it because he was tired of trying to belong where he'd only ever been tolerated. A month passed, then 2, then one morning a letter arrived. It had no return address, but the handwriting was unmistakable. Slanted, heavy, Jordan's. Caleb hesitated before opening it. The envelope felt heavier than paper should. He sat on the floor by the window, unfolded it slowly, and read, "Caleb, I don't know if this letter means anything. You don't owe me a thing, but I needed to write it anyway. I've been thinking about strength, about how everyone always said I was the strong one, how they said you were the sensitive one, like that was something lesser. I thought being strong meant lifting weights, playing through pain, taking hits and getting up again. But you gave me something I couldn't have survived without, and you did it after everything. No one sees that kind of strength because it doesn't make noise, but it saved me. You didn't just save my life, Caleb. You showed me what love looks like when it's real. If you never come home again, I get it, I really do. But for what it's worth, I'm sorry, and you'll never be the weak twin. Not to me, not ever again." Caleb read it twice, then folded it carefully and placed it inside one of his sketchbooks. He didn't cry, he didn't call. Instead, he picked up his pencil and drew. 2 boys side by side. One was small, curled into a corner, his knees to his chest, swallowed by shadows. The other reached toward him with a lantern in his hand. His light didn't erase the darkness, but it made a path through it. Underneath, Caleb wrote, "I am not your shadow. I am the one holding the light." He pinned the drawing to the fridge beside a grocery list and a photo of Noah laughing. Then he made tea, sat on the couch, let the sunlight spill across his knees. For the first time in his life, Caleb wasn't waiting to be invited to the table. He was building one of his own. You can't define someone's strength by how loud they speak, but by how quietly they still choose to love. Have you ever been called the weak one, or proved them wrong in your own quiet way? Let us know in the comments. Want more stories like Caleb's? Tap that subscribe button and comment below. Make 5 more, please. We're just getting started.